What goes around truly does come around. The more you give away and do everything that you do in the service of others, the more that seems to come back. The cycle of real magic takes root. This lesson of prosperity applies to all fields of endeavor. When I was boarding an airplane early one time, I overheard the sarcastic voice of a flight attendant saying, "Here come the animals." I knew it was only a matter of time until that organization perished from a scarcity of passengers. Sure enough, they've gone into bankruptcy. Employees need to know in their souls that they are privileged to serve those who are willing to give of their income to use the service. But I'm not talking to an organization, I'm talking to you. You can shift your consciousness all you want, but you must also shift the emphasis of what you do from results to purpose. Try it. Shift for a 1-month period of time and see if miracles don't start showing up in your life. The less you need to force this new way of being on yourself, the easier it becomes to let it be the guiding principle of your life. It is about allowing your natural self to flow peacefully and knowing your bliss comes from giving and not getting. Letting yourself just flow is a concept you will want to become quite familiar with as you begin to allow the prosperity that you desire in your life. Earlier in this tape, I discussed how everything seems to work perfectly in our lives when we are inspired. Flow is that kind of an inspiration, one so powerful that all obstacles seem to be removed, and we are in love with what we are doing so much that it seems to just flow without any effort from us at all. Getting to flow in your life means achieving a state of concentration so total that everything else becomes non-existent. People who experience prosperity in their lives know how to achieve this magnificent state, wherein their activities, instead of being a tedious set of chores to finish, become more like a meditation. Only they are active and involved rather than sitting quietly. Getting to this zone, you are literally watching your body do things that are incredible. You are experiencing magnificent joy or bliss, and nothing can get in your way. You are on purpose, and you are having that peak experience that others can only dream about. There is a way to get to this state of flow. These are not only the secrets to becoming a superachiever in the workplace, they are the secrets for producing genuine miracles in your life. This process includes 1. Having an overriding spiritual goal that gives meaning to your work. Making your work a meditative experience, and instead of seeing yourself as doing a particular task, you actually in your mind become the task. You shift from a human doing to a human being, if you will. There is no separation. You and the task are unified, all in the name of that overriding spiritual objective to give of yourself in a purposeful way. 2. Focus and close your mind to all distractions. You can train your mind to focus, and this is why I've been encouraging you to learn to meditate. Give your mind the same mental training that you give your body when you want your body to be in a maximum physical condition. You need not be a slave to your senses. Focusing is your natural knowing within. You can either ignore it or go there often. 3. Surrender to the process. You must resist your impulse to strive for what you want. Surrender to God or your higher power, or however you choose to spell it. You must let go and surrender to the actual process. Forget about the result and put your mind and your physical body totally into the experience at hand. This is not that difficult to achieve. Don't strain to achieve. Instead, enjoy the process of the work that you are doing. The results will come independent of your striving for them. 4. Experience the ecstasy. This is the automatic result that will flow to you from the above guidelines. You will know a kind of inner beatitude and bliss that will be unmistakable. It will sneak up on you and hit you over the head, so to speak, but nevertheless, you will know that glorious emotional peak experience if you get yourself to flow in your life. The ecstasy is its own miracle. 5. Watch as you see yourself reaching peak productivity without striving. Your state of ecstasy opens up new vistas of creativity and energy. This natural state of bliss is the key to improving your performance. This is the state that superachievers are able to create for themselves. The processes of surrendering, focusing, and living at purpose lead to ecstasy. When you feel that inner bliss, you simply want more and more of it. The more of it that you are able to create for yourself, the more productive you become. Your thoughts create all of this ecstasy, and ultimately all of the miracles that are going to come into your life in the form of increased prosperity. Your mind is very powerful in terms of what it can produce in your physical reality, as well as the physical reality beyond your own borders. You are now on a path of working toward reversing scarcity consciousness to one of prosperity. This is largely a mental game. You must convince yourself that you and only you are responsible for the pictures in your mind. You must know how very powerful your picturing process is in creating the material world that you experience. This is a universal principle. This is a vital, alive factor of the universe that you are a part of and that is also a part of you. What you can conceive of as a picture in your mind, you can create in the physical world, provided you do not let go of the picture. My wife Marcy and I are currently having our children take lessons from acknowledged masters in the art of meditating and learning to trust one's inner vision. We do this not to give them an advantage over others, but for the purpose of their knowing that they have something within them that no one can ever take away from them, regardless of the material circumstances of their lives. They are learning very early that their peace and tranquility as human beings is dependent upon themselves, and that they have a special retreat within that is always available to them.
You want the truth of who you believe you are to mesh with what you're projecting outward. If this is unsuccessful, you're aware of it, even if you opt to ignore it. The imbalance surfaces in your daily interactions, showing up in feelings of being upset, out of sorts, confused, and often misunderstood. My intentions are good, so why is it that no one else sees it this way? And I try to be a good employee, a good father, a good citizen, and a good husband, but I always seem to be misconstrued or misjudged. This results in a continual state of frustration and even anger. You need to make a decision to realign yourself on an energetic basis to get the scales balanced between your idealized self and your realized self, as perceived by the majority of people in your life. Restoring the balance through realignment. When you balance the way you want to be with the way you're being received, there's a distinctly pleasurable feeling of being in harmony with life. It's not that you're seeking approval or groveling for respect or love. It's more that you're in the world in a way that's congruent with your inner desires to be the kind of person you are. You accomplish this by first noticing when you're feeling misperceived, then determining if your words and actions match the truth of your inner thoughts. This alignment check will eventually and almost automatically give you a reading that compares what you're projecting outwardly with what you're inwardly wanting to express. Let's take a look at some of these indices. This alignment check calls for self-honesty along with a willingness to experience radical humility in the process. 1. I am a loving human being. If you both desire and believe this to be true about yourself, then you're 2/3 of the way toward being in balance on this principle. Your desire to be a loving person and at the same time your truth that you are a loving person leaves only the third element, how others perceive you. Here are some ways of being that are counterproductive to being perceived as a loving human being and create an imbalance. Having a strong position of hatred toward anyone or any group of people, you're out of balance. Violence in any form, including aggressive verbal outbursts, you're out of balance. Support for weapons designed to produce megadeth explosions, you're out of balance. You enjoy being entertained by films portraying hatred and killing, you're out of balance. Verbally belittling others' beliefs and insisting that your beliefs are superior, you're out of balance. Let your thoughts of love become the driving force behind your unloving behaviors. This is true alignment. Begin looking at the world as a vast mirror reflecting back to you exactly what you are. If you truly are a loving human being, the world will look like a loving place to you, and this will be how you'll be perceived. You will have restored balance, and consequently, there will be no discrepancy between how you see yourself and what the world is reflecting back to you. If the world continues to look like an unloving and unlivable place, I urge you to keep examining the kind of energy that you're projecting outward. 2. I am a kind human being. You cannot be kind to me and unkind to your waiter and be in balance. When you persistently extend arrogance outward in the direction of other people, even if you feel justified in your actions, that's how you're perceived and defined. You need to know that you're not coming across as a balanced, kind person. You may indeed exemplify kindness in how you treat your children and your grandmother, and even all of the children and all of the grandmothers of the world. But if you honk your horn in a red-faced anger at a slow-driving grandmother who's taking her grandchildren to school, then you're way, way, way out of balance. If you see yourself as desirous of being a kind person, then consciously spend time daily aligning your thoughts with your desire. The universe will cooperate, bringing you more and more of that same kindness. 3. I am a joyful, happy human being. In this category, your feelings are the measurement you need to pay attention to. In fact, they require your undivided attention. Do you feel happy and content, or are you easily outraged over the misconduct of others? Does your joy turn quickly to despair when you read the newspapers or listen to the news? Do people around you really think that you're a happy camper in your daily life? Do you regularly hear others telling you to lighten up or chill out and stop letting yourself get so worked up? These are clues indicating the balance or imbalance between how you see yourself and what you project to others. The alignment check for this principle involves noticing your feelings and your ability to sustain them, along with feedback from people you trust. And 4, I am a non-judgmental human being. If you're truly non-judgmental, then it will be impossible for you to categorize or generalize individuals into groups such as old, Southern, uneducated, teeny boppers, belonging to red or blue states, conservatives, liberals, and so on. A stereotype is a judgment. You cannot be non-judgmental and be critical of the different ways people talk or eat or dress, socialize, dance, or anything else. If you believe that you're non-judgmental but admit that you have a tendency to generalize and criticize, then you're out of balance. You're due for a realignment so that your current thoughts and ultimately your behaviors will become a vibrational match to your inner self-portrait. Make a conscious decision to look for what is right and pleasing in others. Create a new habit of complimenting those around you. Decide that you're going to disregard stereotypes and refuse to engage in conversations that dwell on judging anyone. Turn judgments into blessings to restore the imbalance between how you want to be and how you're actually presenting yourself to the world. Rebalance this energy by sending a silent blessing to the person. On the non-judgmental side of the balance scale, think about how much love and support this person could use. I guarantee that you'll feel the difference internally and at the same time feel more compassionately connected to that individual. The energy of non-judgment is totally balanced as opposed to the energy of contempt, pity, or some other negative option. Become aware of all of your behaviors and feelings. Then attempt to determine if they match your vision of yourself and if that self-image is what others see. You'll immediately feel discord when you discover imbalance, and that's when you can choose to change habits to match your desires and restore equilibrium to your life.
So here are 5 attitudes that I believe that we need to cultivate. The first of these is, I am a human being expressing God without reservation. This is an attitude that says, who I am is particular, is individual, but I am expressing God. And therefore, I am honorable, I am worthy, I count, and I shouldn't be thinking of myself as something that is less than valuable. That's the first. The second is, I accept myself without complaint. I have a slogan that I use in my own life. It says, whenever I hear my children complaining or other people and they ask me for advice, I always say, don't complain, don't explain. Don't complain, don't explain. I accept myself without complaint. I look at the body that I'm in, and I understand that this is nothing more than my curriculum to God. There are things about it that if I were to be designing it myself, perhaps I would have done a little differently. I might have put a little extra hair on the top. I might have made myself a little taller. I might have made myself a little darker. I might have made my eyes a different color, whatever it is. But that isn't up to me. Because who I am is not this thing that I occupy. This is just a garage where I park my soul. And it doesn't matter. It is my curriculum to God. And whether it can see or can't see, whether it's in a wheelchair, whether it's 4'1" or 7'3", whether it's dark or white, whether it's living on the plains of the Kalahari, or whether it's living in New Guinea, or in Detroit, or Chicago, it doesn't make any difference. I accept myself without complaint. This is what I showed up in. And not only do I accept myself without complaint, but I accept life without complaining. And all of us have that choice, and we don't listen to that inner voice. That inner voice. I've often said that if prayer is you talking to God, then your intuition is God talking to you. And that intuition is something you want to listen to. And complaining about anything in your world, particularly about yourself, is a way of blocking the free flow of the divine intelligence that is everywhere and wants to be delivering abundance into your life. The third is, and this is a hard one for people, is I take full responsibility for my life. I take full responsibility for my life. You see, if you are disconnected or feel disconnected from the divine source, you cannot manifest. The separation is what keeps you from connecting. You can't align yourself. Not taking responsibility for your life and anything in it. And I get letters from people who feel that I shouldn't be saying this because people who have illnesses that they can't do anything about, they don't want to have to take responsibility for them. Or people who have been victims of abuse and things like this don't want to take responsibility for them. Taking responsibility doesn't mean that you feel guilty about anything that has come your way. It means that I have attracted this into my life in some way that I don't understand. It has showed up in my life, and it's my life. And I want to be able to ensure that these things don't show up anymore. And also I want to be able to send them out of my life. But I can't do it if I don't assume a kind of responsibility for them. No guilt. And the fourth one is, I take on no guilt. If to feel worthy, you don't take on guilt. Just taking on this sense of responsibility. If I get anything in my body, that if it's a hernia, if it's an ache, if it's a pain, if it were a cancer, if it were arthritis, if it's I can't sleep, if it's a cold, if it's a backache, if it's a headache, whatever it is, I am going to say, there's something in me that has attracted this. Rather than, I don't know how this happened, I'm just a victim. These kind of things happen. We live in a carcinogenic world, and these kind of things just happen. It's like the minute that you take responsibility for it, you connect to the divine source which can heal it. The minute that you say, I had nothing to do with this, then you put that barrier up there and you're disconnected from the healing of it. So I'm not talking, I want to re-emphasize, I'm not talking about feeling guilty about it. I'm talking about saying, it's here, I've experienced it, I can do something with it, I can either go back to that stage of being an athlete and being a warrior and say, it's all in my ego, or I can do something profound about it, which is to say I can teach and become a statesman and a spiritual being by teaching others how to avoid having this happen. It came to me for a reason. I don't have to understand it, but I take responsibility for it. No guilt, no abdicating the person who was responsible for it and saying, oh, it wasn't their fault. None of that. No removal of the punishment that the person deserves for that kind of conduct. None of that. Simply taking responsibility and saying, I now connect to whatever it is that's in my life, and I no longer am going to carry around the anguish and the guilt there, any place in my life. As soon as you do that, you honor your worthiness to receive the healing, to receive the abundance, to receive the love that might have been missing from your life. The fifth and final affirmation or attitude to create for ourselves a sense of being worthy is to have congruency in your life. Congruency. I understand the importance of harmony between my thoughts, my feelings, and my behaviors. Very often, most of the problems that we face as people come from our inability to have congruency or harmony exist between what I think, what I feel, and how I behave. I may think one thing, I may feel something else, and then behave in a different way. And to have a congruency is to honor your worthiness. Virtually all addictions come from an incongruency. I have a thought about one thing, I feel something else, and then I behave in a different way. And that incongruency is what keeps us from feeling worthy.